Hi everyone. This video is going to be looking at our first paper for this class, Psych 101, looking at stress, its effects, and how to deal with it. Okay, it's a relatively simple paper, pretty straightforward. I'm just going to kind of walk you through it real quick just to make sure that it's clear what's expected of you. So the goal of the assignment is basically to help you understand stress and how to deal with it, right? A useful thing, especially as a student working through all of these things. I know it for myself when I was a student, I was always under significantly more stress, especially if you have outside, things that are expected on you, such as jobs and or family and things like that. So yeah, that's what this paper is basically there to help you deal with, as well as making sure you understand it. So first thing, this paper is going to be 3 to 5 pages in length. Okay. With that, if you turn in like a page that's 2 3/4 or something like that, that'll generally count as a 3-page paper, right? You got to get close. It needs to be more than 2 pages in a sentence or something like that. Okay. On this topic, honestly, you're probably going to end up finding as you're doing your research that it's going to be more of like challenging to keep it to 5 pages rather than trying to reach that 3-page minimum. Okay. So 3 to 5 pages in length, and that does not include the APA formatted cover page or title page or the reference page. Those are 2 separate things that need to be included. I'll talk about that in just a second, a little bit more. Okay. You're also going to need at least 2 references, one of which I ask needs to be a, let's see, a peer-reviewed journal. That's the word I was looking for. One of which needs to be a peer-reviewed journal article. You can access, now peer-reviewed journal article, what that basically means is it's a academic paper that has been published in a journal. A journal is basically going to, you might have already found these in different things, but just in case, a journal is basically a professional magazine, if you will, that has different research and things presented through it. Okay. In order to be published in a journal, generally you have to have followed pretty strict guidelines in your research, and it has been basically peer reviewed, right? So like if you're a PhD, you're doing research, in order for this to be published, it has to be reviewed by other professionals within that given field, generally other PhDs and the like, who say, yep, this has merit, and they have it published. Okay. You can find these quite easily, actually, within the PCC Library's databases. So if you go to the PCC Library's website, either through the PCC website itself, you can find the library fairly easy in there, or here in D2L. If you go into a different, one of the different classes that should pop up to you is the library here, and that has links to all kinds of useful and helpful tips. But I also will include a link to the PCC library below this paper description. So just make sure you can take a look at that. But the databases it's a very useful tool. I highly recommend you using those. Okay. So 2 sources, one of which has to be a peer-reviewed journal article. You can also use your textbook, but if you do use your textbook, it doesn't count towards your 2 sources. So it can be like a 3rd source or something like that. Okay. Oh yeah, there's also actually, I'm going to go ahead and put the library information that I'm going to double check it, make sure, but I'm going to put it here in the description too, so that way you can find it easily. Okay. Okay. So like I said, it's APA formatted. Quick note on that. Typically an APA formatted paper will have an abstract. I do not require an abstract for this paper. An abstract is basically an abbreviated version of the paper, which is really useful when you're reading things like journal articles and things. If you're trying to figure out if it's like, a 30-page research article is worth reading, right? It's going to take you a long time to get through it generally. Is it worth your time? The abstract basically gives you a paragraph or 2 that gives you a breakdown of kind of, this is what this thing is covering. Should I spend my time on it? And so I don't require that for this paper. You do not need an abstract. Okay. There's a good chance someone's going to ask me anyway. That's all good. If you ask me, no worries, but you don't need one. Okay. So let's see. So quick points breakdown. You're going to have an APA formatted title page worth 5 points possible. Okay. And that's basically just has your information, the class information, and like your name, the class, and my name on it. Okay. And the date and things like that. Okay. Then from there, next page, right, your first page of your actual paper, You do your little introduction like normal. And then you're going to give a description of stress and what is physically happening in the body when under stress. What is happening in you hormonally and all those kinds of things that actually causes the stress to occur, right? What is it? Because it's a biological reaction with a psychological interpretation. So those are, you're going to be looking at what is happening biologically, and then how is the psychology connected to it. So what is stress? A description of what may cause stress and its long-term effects on the body and psychology of the individual. So give me some examples in that one, like, right, show me what happens if you're under chronic stress over a long time. What are some of the positive and or negative side effects that can occur from that? Hint, hint, most of them are going to be negative. Okay, but anyway. But give us some examples of what might happen if you were to be experiencing that. And then finally, show research on methods to manage stress and how they can be incorporated into a daily routine. Okay. So what's out there that talks about how to deal with it, right? If you're struggling with chronic stress, are there things that you can do that can actually reduce the negative effects of it and or reduce the feelings of stress from it? Okay. There's a lot of research out there on that, so I'd expect you to find that fairly easily. Then the APA reference page will follow. That does not count toward the body of the paper. That the reference page is an additional page, right? So you have 5 pages, say, of actual body. You should also have a title page and a reference page on both ends of that. So a total of 7 pages, with 5 pages being the body. Okay. So reference page, and then an APA formatting, grammar, and spelling is worth a total possibility of 25 points. 100 points total. Okay. Real quick, if you turn in a paper that's too short, right, you get like the 2-page mark, but you don't get onto the 3rd page. You will lose 20 points per page short. If you turn in a 1-page paper, the highest you could possibly get is a 60. Okay. I don't know how you'd actually cover all these things and do a 1-page paper, but anyway, it's possible. I've had some people do that, but in that case, even if you turned in the most amazing 1-page paper ever, it's only worth a possibility of 60 points. On the other hand, if you turn in more than 5 pages above the required limit, it loses 10 points for each additional page. Okay. So just make sure you're trying to stay within that. That's part of writing professionally, is that you stay within the guidelines of it. APA formatting also, it's going to be double spaced. So make sure that all that is in place. Okay. Also, make sure. If you don't hear anything else about this on this video, make sure you listen to this part. Cite your sources, both in your paper. So anytime you use anybody else's thoughts, even if it's vaguely referencing them, okay, you got to give credit where credit's due. So using the APA formatting, give me a citation within the paper saying this information was from such and such person and or site or whatever. Okay. And make sure you give me a reference page. If either of those things are missing, so I've had people that turn in reference pages, but there's no in-text citations. You have to have in-text citations telling me where you're using that information at the end. If you don't, that's considered plagiarism, which can result in a 0 on the paper, okay, and no redo. I hold that as a possibility. So just make sure that you cite your sources, okay. When in doubt, if you think you're like, well, it might be from this, but it's kind of my own idea also, go ahead and cite it. Doesn't hurt, okay. In fact, it might actually give you more credit. So yeah, cite your sources, okay. I don't want to give you a 0 just because you could turn in an amazing paper, but if you don't cite your sources, it's more likely a 0, okay. So yeah. Above and beyond that, that's pretty much the paper. Pretty straightforward. I mean, you basically are looking at about a page per section, if you will, page and a bit maybe per section, and you should be able to cover this fairly easily. It's a pretty straightforward paper with lots and lots of research done on it. Stress is something that a lot of people struggle with. Because of that, there's been a lot of research done on it over the years. I've also included below the paper description the Purdue OWL's APA formatting, which the Purdue OWL is their online writing lab for Purdue University. It's excellent. It does a very good job. So you can go in there and you can, if you're looking at it from a website, You can look up how to cite that source. If you're looking at a journal, you can look at how to cite those kinds of sources, and it gives you both examples of the in-text citations as well as your reference page. I also included an APA sample paper. There's actually 2 papers in there through the Purdue OWL. One of them is a student paper and one of them is a professional paper. Don't even worry about the professional paper, just look at the student paper. Okay. And then finally, Grammarly. It's a useful tool for helping with spelling and all those kinds of things. So make sure you take a look at that. It's free. If you download it through Firefox, Chrome, or Safari, it's free. I believe you have to pay for it if you go other ways. But it does a really good job of kind of double checking your spelling and checking your grammar. There is a paid version. So if you really struggle with spelling and grammar, there is a paid version that can go through and give you suggestions on word choices and things like that too. But for most people, the free version is adequate. Okay. And then there's also going to be information in here on the PCC library. So I'm going to make sure that that link is still working, that it goes to the right place. So that way you can find the databases nice and easy. Okay, and that's it. If you have any questions, as always, reach out to me. Send me a message or hit me in the discussions, and I'll do my best to answer them as fast as possible to make sure that you are on track. All right. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Good luck with this paper. Hope you enjoy it. This is actually a fun one to research, in my opinion. This is one of my topics that I really always liked looking through. So, because it can be very useful, especially, again, like I said, as a student. So make sure that you have some fun with it too. Until later, I look forward to reading all your papers, and I will talk to you all next time. Have a good one.